All right, so you know how sometimes you just want to cut through all the clutter and really like get to the core of an idea?
Mm,
That's what we're doing today.
absolutely.
And you all sent in a bunch of requests, and it's clear that there's a ton of interest around James Clear's Atomic
It's for
Habits.
sure. Yeah, it's a popular one.
So, our mission today is really straightforward.
Okay.
We're diving deep to pull out like the absolute key ideas so you can get a really solid grasp on
Yeah,
how habits work and more importantly, how you can make them work for you.
exactly.
Whether that's building new habits or breaking old ones or even just understanding like the science,
The why.
the why behind all this.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so, the book is called Atomic Habits.
Right.
And that word atomic, you might think big and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's almost the opposite, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's really about the smallest unit.
Okay.
Think of it like the fundamental particle,
Okay.
the tiniest change you can make.
All right, so atomic habits, these are really just like tiny little, almost unnoticeable shifts in what we do.
Yeah, and sometimes they seem so small, you might even wonder if they're even worth it.
Right.
But the real magic comes from how they build on each other.
That's that snowball effect.
Exactly.
Like it's that compounding.
Yeah, compound interest for self-improvement.
Can you unpack that a little bit for folks? Because I think that's so important.
Yeah, so imagine you invest like a small amount of money consistently.
Okay.
Over time, the returns you earn also start earning returns.
Right.
And it just grows exponentially.
It's like that quote that Einstein supposedly said about compound interest being like the eighth wonder of the world or something.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same concept with habits.
Okay.
So Clear talks about a 1% improvement each day.
Okay.
Might not seem like much in the moment.
Right. You don't see a big difference like day to day.
Exactly. You won't notice a huge difference on Tuesday versus Wednesday.
Mhm.
But when you string these tiny wins together over weeks, months, years, they lead to remarkable transformations.
So it's about the aggregate impact.
Yes, the long game.
So, showing up consistently, even in small ways,
Yeah, that's the key.
leads to big results.
Yeah,
So like reading even a few pages a day, suddenly you've read like a serious amount over a year.
right.
Now, from this idea of these tiny changes compounding, Clear introduces this framework.
Okay.
It's the 4 laws of behavior change.
Yeah, these are your tools.
This is the toolkit.
Exactly, a practical guide.
Yeah, so the 4 laws are really like principles you can use to design good habits and also, as we'll talk about later, dismantle the bad ones.
Right. And each law addresses a stage in what he calls the habit loop.
Okay, so let's dive into the first law.
Right.
Make it obvious.
Make it obvious.
So what's the heart of this principle?
Well, the idea is that every habit starts with a cue,
Okay.
a trigger,
Right.
that initiates the behavior. So if you want to cultivate a good habit,
Yeah.
you needed to make that cue really obvious and noticeable. But if you're trying to ditch a bad habit, you want those cues to be invisible.
Right.
Like you don't even notice them.
Okay, so this is where environment design comes in.
Yeah, you're shaping your world.
So it's about setting up my surroundings to nudge me in the right direction.
Exactly.
So I'm like making the path of least resistance lead to where I want to go.
You got it.
So there's that great example in the book,
Hmm.
If you want to make running a regular thing, like a morning habit, you put your shoes right next to your bed.
Right there, so you can't miss them.
And that visual cue,
Yeah.
first thing in the morning, boom, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going for a run.
Friend of mine.
It's like reducing that friction,
Okay.
that moment of having to think, okay, where are my shoes?
Yeah, you've already eliminated that obstacle.
Okay, law number 2,
All right.
make it attractive.
Make it attractive.
This one seems to tap into like our desires and our motivations.
It does, because the more appealing a habit is, the stronger the craving, and the more likely you are to repeat it. So Clear talks about a strategy called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so it's basically linking a habit you want to do,
Right.
but maybe you're procrastinating on,
Okay.
with something you already enjoy.
So I'm using the enjoyable activity as a reward.
Yes, as a carrot,
Okay.
to make the new habit more attractive.
Oh, so it's like that classic example he uses where you only allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show while you're on the treadmill.
Yes,
So the enjoyment of the show is now linked to the exercise.
exactly. You start to crave the exercise because it means you get to watch your show.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've made it obvious.
Mm-hmm.
We've made it attractive.
Yes.
The third law is make it easy.
Make it easy.
This one seems pretty straightforward.
It does, but there's some nuance here.
Okay.
The basic principle is that habits are more likely to stick if they're easy and convenient.
Right.
Clear emphasizes simplifying the behavior to lower that initial barrier. And that often involves breaking down larger goals into smaller steps.
So instead of saying, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes every day,
Right, which can feel daunting.
you start with just 1 minute.
Yeah, or even just sitting still for a minute.
Yeah.
Make it almost effortless.
It's about making that initial step so easy it doesn't require willpower.
You got it.
Because even a small action like that helps build momentum.
Absolutely.
So it's easier to continue the habit
Yeah.
over time.
It's like the 2-minute rule he talks about later.
Okay.
If you want to read more, start by just reading 1 page a day.
Right. 1 page.
That's it.
It feels so much less overwhelming
Exactly.
than, sitting down and trying to read for an hour.
It's a mental trick.
Okay, so we've made it obvious,
Mm-hmm.
attractive,
Yizzy.
easy. Fourth and final law.
All right.
Make it satisfying.
I think it's satisfying.
This feels like it's crucial for reinforcing those new habits and making them stick.
It is, because that immediate reward or satisfaction after you complete a habit, that plays a huge role in strengthening the habit loop and making us want to do it again.
It's like that positive reinforcement.
Yeah,
You get a little
it's what's-
dopamine hit, and you're like, oh, I want to do that again.
Right.
So Clear suggests finding ways to actively reward yourself right after the habit,
Yeah,
ideally in a way that aligns with your broader goals.
absolutely.
So after a workout, instead of reaching for something unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
you reward yourself with a healthy smoothie.
Right.
Or just take a moment to appreciate you did the workout.
Yeah, you showed up for yourself.
That's right.
That's powerful.
It's like seeing that immediate positive feedback
Mm-hmm.
reinforces the behavior.
And makes you want to do it again.
Now, all four of these laws,
Make it obvious.
attractive
Mhm.
and satisfying,
Yes.
they all feed into what Clear describes as the habit loop.
The habit loop.
So can you kind of walk us through that cycle?
Sure. So the habit loop is this continuous cycle that underlies every habit.
Okay.
And it has 4 stages. Cue, craving, response, reward.
Okay, so the cue is the trigger.
Exactly the thing that starts the behavior.
Okay, the craving.
That's the motivational desire behind the habit.
Okay.
The response is the actual habit itself, the action you take.
Okay.
And then the reward is that satisfaction you get from doing the habit,
Right.
which reinforces the whole cycle.
It kind of like solidifies that connection.
Yes, it makes you want to do it again.
Okay.
And Clear emphasizes that through repetition, this whole loop becomes automatic,
Like it's ingrained,
deeply ingrained in our brains.
like a mental shortcut.
Yeah. It's why well-established habits can feel so effortless.
You're on autopilot.
Exactly.
So one of the cool strategies Clear discusses is to build new habits by piggybacking on our existing routines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where habit stacking comes in.
Habit stacking, a very clever technique.
Yeah, so can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So habit stacking is attaching a new habit you want to form to an existing one that you already do automatically.
So you're using that existing habit as kind of an anchor.
Exactly like a
And
trigger.
a new behavior.
Yeah. And he gives a really simple formula.
Right.
After current habit, I will new habit.
Give me a clear example of how someone could use this.
Yeah. So a very common one is after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will do 5 minutes of stretching.
Okay.
So brushing your teeth is already ingrained.
You don't even think about it.
Exactly.
So by adding the stretching right after,
You increase the chance of remembering to stretch and actually doing it.
and it's like you're not having to create this whole new routine.
Right. You're leveraging what's already there.
Yeah.
Those existing neural pathways.
And you're not using up your willpower trying to remember.
That's a mental hack.
Now, Clear also talks about the difference between goals and systems.
Right.
This was a huge aha moment for me.
Oh, yeah, it's a game changer.
So goals are those outcomes,
The targets.
the things we want to achieve.
Yeah.
Systems are the daily processes,
The routines, the habits.
the how.
Yeah, the how, not just the what.
Okay, so Clear argues that focusing on building effective systems is actually what drives progress towards those goals.
Because those systems are the things you can control on a daily basis.
So instead of saying, I want to get in shape,
Mm-hmm.
the system is your plan to achieve that.
Exactly like going to the gym 3 times a week.
Right.
Following a specific meal plan.
It's about the actions.
Yeah, and by focusing on improving those daily actions.
You're naturally increasing the likelihood of reaching your goal.
It's a byproduct.
Okay, now something that can be really demotivating when you're trying to build new habits is, that initial phase where you're not seeing any progress.
Yeah, it can feel like you're spinning your wheels.
So Clear talks about the plateau of latent potential.
The plateau is latent potential.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so it's that phase where you're putting in the effort.
Okay.
You're being consistent, but you're not seeing the results yet.
It's so frustrating.
It is. It can feel like you're getting nowhere.
Like when you're learning a new language, You might study for weeks and still struggle to have a basic conversation.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged.
But Clear explains that beneath the surface, those foundations are being built.
Exactly.
Like the vocabulary you're learning, the grammar rules you're internalizing.
Yeah.
So after a period of consistent effort,
Mm-hmm.
you hit a tipping point
A breakthrough.
and the results become visible.
Yeah, and it's not that you weren't making progress before, it's just that it was happening beneath the surface.
It's like that bamboo analogy.
Right, for years you don't see anything above ground.
But the roots are growing.
Deep and strong,
And then suddenly,
it shoots up,
yeah.
seemingly overnight.
Okay, this idea of consistent action leading to an eventual breakthrough really connects with this whole concept of shaping your identity through your habits.
Identity-based habits.
Yeah, it's not just about the outcomes, it's
Well,
about the person you become
absolutely.
in the process.
Yeah.
So identity-based habits take the focus beyond the goal and shift it to cultivating the identity associated with that goal.
Right.
So instead of saying, I want to lose weight,
You say, I am a healthy person.
it's a subtle but profound shift.
It changes your self-perception.
And makes it easier to stick to habits that align with that new identity.
Yeah.
So every action you take, every habit you reinforce, it's like casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be.
I love that analogy.
So if you're consistently going for runs,
Mm-hmm.
you're reinforcing the belief that,
I am a runner.
and when your habits are intertwined with your identity,
Mm-hmm.
they become more resilient.
Yeah, because they're no longer just things you do. They're part of who you are.
It's like, it's not even a question anymore.
Right. It's just who you are.
Okay, so we've talked about how to build good habits.
Yes.
But what about those bad habits?
The unwanted behaviors.
Things we all struggle with.
Yeah.
The ones we want to eliminate.
Clear has a framework for that too.
He does.
Yeah.
So to break bad habits, he suggests inverting the 4 laws. Okay, so the first law for building good habits is make it obvious.
Right.
So to break a bad habit, we should make it invisible. Reduce our exposure to those triggers.
Exactly.
So if snacking on unhealthy food is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
don't keep it in the house.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Or if your phone is a constant distraction,
Put it in another room while you're working.
eliminate the trigger.
Exactly.
Okay, the second law for building good habits is make it attractive.
Mm-hmm.
So to break a bad habit,
You make it unattractive.
associate those negative feelings.
Yeah. Think about the downsides.
No consequences.
How it conflicts with your goals, your
Oh,
values.
Okay.
Make it unappealing.
So for building good habits, we make it easy.
Right.
So to break a bad habit,
You make it difficult.
increase the friction.
Yeah. Add obstacles.
If you're mindlessly scrolling social media,
Mhm.
delete the apps.
Or log out every time you use them.
So you have to go through that extra step.
Of logging back in.
Yeah, to make it less appealing.
Yeah. Make it a conscious choice.
And finally, for building good habits, we make it satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
But to break a bad habit,
You make it unsatisfying.
you remove the reward.
Exactly. Or even make it aversive.
Okay.
So if you're trying to quit smoking,
Okay.
you could keep track of how much money you're spending.
And see that cost adding up.
Yeah. It makes you less likely to want to keep doing it.
That's a powerful visual.
It is.
Okay, so inverting the 4 laws feels like a really practical way to tackle those unwanted behaviors.
It's a framework for change.
Now, we've talked about it a little bit, but Clear really emphasizes the role of our environment
Our surroundings.
in shaping our habits.
Yeah. It's a huge influence.
So our environment is constantly giving us cues, subtly influencing our behavior.
Without us even realizing it.
So designing an environment that supports good habits and minimizes triggers for bad habits is crucial.
It's setting yourself up for success.
Right.
Making the path towards good behavior the easiest one.
So like a kitchen stocked with healthy food
Mm-hmm.
makes healthy eating the default.
Exactly.
A dedicated workspace free from distractions.
Makes focused work more achievable.
It's about making it easy to do the right thing.
Yeah. Remove those obstacles.
Speaking of making things easy, Clear introduces this concept called the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule.
And it sounds deceptively simple.
It is.
So when you're starting a new habit,
Mm-hmm.
you should scale it down
Yeah.
to an action you can complete in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes or less.
The goal isn't to achieve some big outcome in those 2 minutes.
It's just to start.
To make starting as easy as possible.
Remove the friction.
So if my goal is to exercise regularly,
Mm-hmm.
the 2-minute version is just putting on my workout clothes.
That's it.
Or if I want to read more.
Just open the book
Right.
to the first page.
And by starting,
Even for just 2 minutes.
you've overcome that initial inertia
Yeah, that resistance.
to beginning something new.
You've broken the seal.
And it's much easier to continue.
Momentum.
Okay, finally, Clear talks about maintaining motivation over the long term,
Right.
and he introduces the Goldilocks rule.
The Goldilocks rule.
What is that?
So the idea is that we experience peak motivation when we're working on tasks that are right at the edge of our current abilities.
Okay.
So not too easy that we get bored,
Right.
but not too difficult that we get overwhelmed.
It's that sweet spot.
Yeah, like Goldilocks porridge.
The challenge is just right
Exactly.
to keep us engaged in a state of flow.
Yeah, you want to be stretching yourself but not snapping.
Okay, so as our habits improve and we become more proficient, we need to increase the challenge
Right, you don't want to get complacent.
to stay in that optimal zone.
It's about continuous improvement
It's a process of finding that balance
Yeah.
to keep us growing.
without getting discouraged.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into atomic habits.
It's a great book.
And the message that I'm really taking away is that profound and lasting change isn't about massive overnight changes.
It's the small things.
It's about making those small, consistent improvements.
1% better each day.
And by understanding the science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
we can design our lives to make those positive changes stick.
Absolutely.
The 4 laws:
Make it obvious.
attractive,
And
satisfying.
provide a really practical and memorable framework.
Yeah, a toolkit for change.
And you can apply this to building good habits and dismantling bad ones.
Exactly.
It's all about understanding these principles and applying them.
In your daily life.
Okay, so as you're listening to this,
Mhm.
I want you to think about just one small area of your life
Right.
where a 1% daily improvement could make a difference over the next year.
Think about the compounding effect.
What's one atomic habit you could implement today based on what you've learned?
Maybe it's drinking more water
Maybe it's leaving your phone outside your bedroom at night.
or meditating for just 1 minute. Think about how these principles resonate with your experiences,
Your struggles.
your goals.
Your aspirations.
It's all about those small, seemingly insignificant steps
Mm-hmm.
that over time
Compound.
into remarkable and lasting change.
Atomic habits for an extraordinary life.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
See you then.